be better than I could dream. It's gonna be better than I could dream. It's gonna be better than I could dream. It's gonna be better than I could dream. Your goodness can't be stopped. Your love, it's better than I ever thought. Your mercy saved my soul. Your kindness came down to make me whole. I prophesy into tomorrow. We will see the goodness of our God. It's gonna be better than I could dream. It's gonna be better than I could dream. It's gonna be better than I could dream. It's gonna be better than I could dream.
Gotta get my glasses. Hey. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. So as Pastor said, we are on week 3 of our biblical money management. And for the next, this session and the next 2 afterwards, we're just gonna definitely get right into our steps. So we covered baby steps 1, and we were just beginning baby steps 2. And I believe that I dropped off 37. Okay. So I believe this is where we ended. Baby step 1, if you guys can remember, is to save that $1,000 emergency fund. And baby step 2 was introducing us into the debt snowball, which is where we're gonna throw everything that we've got at paying off those debts from the smallest to the largest. And we were talking about getting on a budget, so we will pick up there. So when we stopped, we were just saying that, during this time that you are getting into the debt snowball and paying off those debt, that this is the time that we are going to live like no one else now so that we can live like no one else later. So we've gone through baby step one. We've got our $1,000 emergency fund. So now we want to just focus on paying off that debt. And so we discussed taking side hustles, those second jobs that'll bring in that extra income for us, and remembering that that money is definitely going to go toward our debt. This is not extra money, that we can just do what we want with. We are working second job for a purpose, because I'm sure not everyone wants to have 2 or 3 jobs. We want to just have that one job, but that's sometimes that's what it's going to take. And we also covered like knowing that our biggest money-making tool is going to be our jobs. But if our jobs are not paying, what we need, or just looking for a little bit more, then that's something that we need to address first. Because sometimes, it just may be very difficult to save that $1,000. So how do we do that? So if you do have a job that may not be paying much, then maybe we need to look at some additional education that could help so that we can move into some better positions, or maybe there's just some additional training that your job may offer to move into different positions. So we are trying to make allowances for that. Like, we do recognize that if this is what your job pays and this is it, then we got to start thinking outside of the box. And maybe some of those things need to be addressed before you are in a position to be able to start saving that $1,000. So just keep that in mind. So I wanted us to look at some more potential side hustles. And these are some good ones. I didn't think about it. When I started going down the list and just looking up some stuff, these were a lot of the things that popped up. What about being a referee? This is something that you can do on the weekend, for little leagues, softball, basketball, Then what about flea market flipping? Some of us may be really good at that. You may be great at finding something old and making it new, and then reselling it. And there's so many avenues that you can resell stuff. We have, obviously we've got, online, but like if you stay in a subdivision or whatever, you may have, sometimes your HOA has those newsletters and stuff. You can advertise there, won't cost you anything. Facebook has a market that you can advertise. I think there's another place called Neighborhood, I think that's what it's called. It's an app called Neighborhood. Nextdoor. I was close. Nextdoor. Yeah, that's a good app, So think about if you can find something and repurpose it and sell it that way. Then look at Event Planner. Some of us, I'm sure this room is just full of a lot of talents and stuff, and we need to figure out a way to turn those talents into money-making opportunities for us. Then what if you're good at, you've got a good green thumb? If you do, come see me, because I'm not so good at that. But maybe you have a small garden, and what about growing flowers and then working with churches or someone who may be having a small event, and you be the person who supplies the flowers for them. These are just ways to think out of the box. And this is a good one for empty nesters. What about renting out a room? Now, I know we got to use some caution because, we know the world that we live in, but that could be an option for some people. Maybe, if you're going to rent out a room, maybe it's to another relative or something, or maybe not. But that's something we can do about. And then what about consulting? What are you good at? Even if you're retired, were you an accountant at one time? maybe you can be a consultant for someone. Or if you were a teacher, maybe, again, we talked about that earlier, maybe be a private tutor for someone. Local tour guides. When I go over to, I take vacations and I go over into Europe, we have, which I don't even get this, but, we're paying for a guide, and then when we go into the smaller cities over there, they have the local tour guides that they bring in for us to take us around. And literally, sometimes these are very small cities, but these people, they ask them to come and show us around, and I'm sure they're already paying them, but then they're telling us too, it's customary to tip the, So I've seen these people, like rack up, and there's only like 12 people that they're like touring. I mean, if you've lived here in Jacksonville all your life, there's people from other countries that are visiting Florida. Maybe you could hook up with, one of these companies and, put yourself out there to be a local tour guide. And any type of remote work that you can think of. What about a mobile notary person? Always work for that. And of course, childcare is a big one. Now, I get it. If you're like, I've raised my kids, I'm not trying to take care of any more kids, but you know how expensive childcare is, and then you have people who are like, they don't feel comfortable putting their kids in any old childcare. But maybe you can be that person that says, you know what, I can take care of 2 kids. That's a great opportunity there. And we have on here grandfluencers. So this is, if you're older, you can still jump into this techno arena and share recipes. What about sharing some travel ideas, or just giving life lessons, or what do they call these people? Life coaches, Yeah, your expertise is highly needed in this world. But yeah, I know a lady on there. She's on Facebook. I tune in and see her. She's a cook, and oh my God, the food just looks amazing. And she just has this wonderful personality, and she has a big following, and she's just standing in her kitchen cooking. So you just never know what you have, what talent that somebody will be willing to tune in. I tune in, And then resume writer, that's always something good. So again, these are just a few side hustles. And when you are thinking about these side hustles, just remember that there is a purpose for these side hustles. They're going to help you reach your money goals faster, by increasing your income. And again, a lot of these, you're going to be able to do that without leaving your house. And you want to find a side hustle that matches your skills, your money goals, whatever they may be, the resources that you have available. What you don't want to do, we don't want you to go in debt to start a side hustle. That kind of defeats the purpose here. And you need to determine how much you're willing to hustle. When I had that side job, I had so many hours that I knew that I was going to work. I worked 4 hours a day, but I didn't do it every day. I did it like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, I left Wednesday and Friday open for myself. But yeah, so when you start thinking about it, establish those things first before you go out there and decide on one. Okay, so we can go to the next screen. Now, these are the benefits of a budget. So what budgets can do is they help you manage where every dollar of your income is going. So with the budget, every dollar is assigned a job. Dave Ramsey used to have this saying years ago. He said, when you see your money flying out the window, you say to it, get back in here and tell me where you're going. You don't let them go out the door or fly out the window without a purpose. You tell your money where it's going. It doesn't tell you where it's going. So a budget helps you get moving toward that debt-free life, And once you start budgeting, you'll find out that you have more money than you realize. It's just that if you don't have a budget, you start spending money. If you're going to get paid on Friday, you may start spending some of that money on Thursday or Wednesday or whatever. And so before you even get your check, it's like $200 of that is already gone, But with a budget, we're gonna stick to that budget. We're gonna wait until that paycheck is in the bank, and we're gonna, get our budget, and we are going to stick to it. Now, I will tell you, if you are married, this is something that clearly, you and your spouse want to sit down and do together. And if if you have a spouse that may not like be into this, but just pray about that. There could be ways that you could introduce them into it, showing them that this is gonna help you, this is gonna benefit you, and ask their opinion on it. Don't just go and set that budget and say, this is what you have to stick to. You do want their input on it. We don't want to do anything to drive people away. So, and with budgeting, with setting that budget, you're going to shift from wondering where your money went to having that full control over your money. Now, if you've never done a budget before, I'm going to ask that you give it about 3 months, to get into a rhythm of using a budget. It takes a minute, and don't be frustrated if the first month you do a budget and you blow it. It's okay, just commit to next month. We're going to pick ourselves up, and maybe you may end up blowing it for the next 6 months. But at some point, it's gonna click with you. It's gonna register with you, and you're gonna realize that the budget is your friend. It is not your enemy. Okay, gonna go to the next one. And here is an example of a budget, and you should have copies of this in your workbook. But for all of our techie people, there is a free app on the Ramsey Solutions website that you can download. There's like it's sort of like a beginner app, and then I think they do charge. Jeffrey, I was just talking to him. He actually has the app, and he's been using it for 3 months. And what did you tell me about it?
Awesome. Why didn't I do it a long time ago?
Yeah. I mean, I downloaded it, and yeah, it's just cool. You just are plugging in, your income, and I'm sitting here saying, you can see the example here. You're gonna, instead of just writing all this down, you're just gonna plug it into the app, and then it's just gonna automatically calculate everything to you, calculate everything for you. So I would recommend looking at that app, but if you don't, I get it. I don't always want an app for everything. I'm old school, so I do like me some paper. And if you can just go to that next screen. So like I say, you are going to put in your income. Oops, I think I skipped over. You don't have to go back. I'll just say what that is. You're going to add your income, and then what does that say there? Now, this is bad. You can't even read your own notes. And then you're going to start listing your expenses. And with step 3, you're going to start subtracting those expenses from your income, and you're going to track your expenses all month long. Now, that might be a challenge for some if you're just kind of used to playing it loose and fancy-free. Just be mindful of what you're spending. I've even heard some testimonies so far about, people saying, they've gone into the store and they think about, they're going to go and get something, then they think about it and go, oh, look, I don't want to pay that. That's what's going to happen, because you are wanting to make sure that we track, every dime that you're spending. And then every month you are going to make a new budget. And with that app, I think it's just simple. Do you just delete the previous?
What I do is I copy and paste.
Okay, so that you can go back and look at it. Okay. So whatever works for you. If you're techie and you want to get that app, go for it. Or if you want the paper trail, then we do have copies in your workbook, and you can just make copies of that. It's just the quick start budget here. And if you can just take a look at that if you guys haven't already done so. Just kind of go through there, and if there's like expenses that are not on there, just add them to it or mark through one that, doesn't pertain to you and write in what you want. But these are just some ways to just get you started. We can go to the next screen. Now, this is a monthly budget percentages and averages. It's not set in stone. This is just something we want to give you to just get started with, to just kind of show you what things may cost, or just, it's not exact. It's just giving you percentages. So on our monthly budget, we're going to show like giving, that's, 10%, or you make that what you want, and savings and food and groceries, just giving you a percentage of what things, because if you want to if you're not getting the app and just kind of want to do a rough run through of a budget, these are some good percentages to work with. So the next screen. Are you there? Okay. Again, it's got, percentages for utilities, your housing, transportation, health, insurance, childcare, and we know you're going to be on a budget. So we are, in your budget, do allow yourself what they call blow money or fun money or lifestyle or entertainment. Allow yourself a little bit of that, because it kind of keeps you from going, I can't do this, and then just spending everything. It's kind of like, when you're on a diet, it's like you don't want to be so rigid that, oh my God, I can't even eat a cookie. If you allow yourself a cookie, once or twice during the week when you're on your diet, then you tend to not want to blow it, because you look forward to your reward day, your cheat day. It's like, oh my God, I get to get that cookie, that chocolate chip cookie that I've been dreaming about. So this is kind of like your budget. Give yourself a little bit of blow money there. Just remember, and if you guys can remember, when we started, we did not have this app and everything. We actually had envelopes, and we would just put our money in those envelopes. And it was labeled, I literally labeled mine blow money. And, when I opened that blow money envelope up and there wasn't anything in there, well, there was no more blowing for the month. It was like, I'm done, And then I started thinking, and you can do this also. It's like if you allow a budget for like clothing, and you haven't bought any clothes that month, or you don't plan on, then I would kind of say, oh, I'm taking the budget, the clothing money, and this will be my blow money. But I'm not taking money from some designated bill that I need to pay. But just remember to do that. So gonna step away from the steps for a moment. If you go to the next screen, and talk about tithes and offering. So since we are discussing budget, this is a great time to discuss that. So let's go to the next screen. So this is Proverbs 3:9. The scriptures say, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. So we are wanting to remember the Lord in our finances. We're inviting him in, even this process you're going through, we're inviting him in to help us, to guide us, through this. So we do want to honor him by, paying tithes. So let's just discuss what tithing is. If you go to the next screen. So tithe is a portion, usually 10% of your income, given to your local church. Now, what does the Bible say about this? So this idea of tithing is not anything new. It comes straight from the scripture, and just going to go through a few key Bible verses about it. So we have Leviticus 27:30 that says, 1/10 of the produce of the land, where the grain or fruit is the Lord and is holy. So the first mention of tithe, I put title there, that's my typo. Genesis 14:18-20. After winning a battle, Abraham, then called Abram, met Melchizedek, the king of Salem and a priest of God. Melchizedek blessed Abraham. If we go to the next screen. And these are just more scriptures that we can just take a look at. Genesis 28:20-22. Then Jacob made a vow saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I'm taking, and give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I've set up as a pillar will be God's house. And all that you give me, I will give you 1/10. So this kind of describes where we are now. Like, if God is going to be with us, we've invited him on this journey with us. And he's going to watch over us. We're trusting that he's going to watch over us. He's going to guide us. He's going to lead us. He's going to show us how to get those finances in order. And he's taking care of us during this journey, too. You know, he's going to clothe us. He's going to feed us. I remember, now I wasn't doing the journey at this time. I think I was still, like, struggling. But this is, like, a really good testimony of how God provides for you. I went from working full-time to part-time because I wanted to go back to school, and I just wanted to do it. I didn't want to do a bunch of night classes. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not putting that down at all. I'm just saying I did not want to do it. I just kind of wanted to go ahead and do my schooling in bulk, you know, take a lot of classes at one time. So it required me to stop working full-time. And God just did one miracle after another. In helping me do that. The first thing I did was I was working as a legal secretary at this corporation, and all of a sudden there was this position that opened up part-time, and you were going to be able to keep benefits and everything. And of course, and this is back in the day when part-time jobs, you know, that worked that way just wasn't in abundance. Gosh, there must have been like 20-something people, I was told, that applied for that position. And I was like, oh, God, all I can do is just throw my hat in the ring there. Well, you know what? I ended up getting a job. So I literally just went from, you know, I worked like on the 30-something floor to going down and working on the ground floor and working with this relocation services, and they worked around my schedule. I would work in the morning. I only had to work 4 hours, so I'd go there in the morning, work, and then leave and go to school, which is right downtown. And I kept benefits, so that whole time I was working part-time, you know, I had insurance and everything. Nothing changed. So that was a miracle. And then the lady that I work with, you know, things were tight. So, you know, I was, you know, I didn't go home and eat filet mignon every night. It was more like popcorn for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because in my mind, I'm like, it's substance, it's food, it fills you up. So I was just eating a lot of popcorn. Well, I go to work one day, and my boss says, yeah, I need you guys to come to the house and get all this meat, because her father slaughtered a cow every year for her, and it was just her and her son. So she had all this meat that would be left over before he slaughtered another one, you know, and she would always come and give it to the office. Well, there was only like 5 of us in the office, and the other ladies were like, yeah, I'm not going because I still have meat left over from the last time we went out there. I am like, I'm going because, you know, I'm tired of eating popcorn. I go out there. I literally had about, probably like 6 brown bags full of every kind of cut from that cow that you can think of. I mean, I literally went from eating popcorn one night to my filet mignon, you know. The next night, I mean, I didn't even have room to put this meat. I had to go to my neighbor. I was living in this townhouse, and the lady under me had I remember that she had a separate freezer. And I just negotiated with her. I said, hey, if I give you one of these bags of meat, can I store my meat down here? Because, I mean, I can't even open the door in the freezer, you know, upstairs. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, my God. So I had every kind of beef you can think of, and I just, instead of getting my popcorn, I just went and got potatoes, because I had baked potato, mashed potatoes, fried potatoes. But it was just, you know, I just thought, God just took care of me. You know, I had all this meat, and, you know, it was like totally free. So I'm just, you know, letting you know that God is going to take care of you. He's going to give you food to eat. He's going to give you clothes to wear. He's going to give housing for you. Just keep him in the midst of this journey. So we have Nehemiah 10:35 says, we also assume responsibility for bringing to the house of the Lord each year the first fruits of our crops and every fruit tree. And then we have Malachi 3:10, which is, I'm sure everyone knows, which is bring the whole tithe into the storehouse that there may be food in my house. Test me in this. I love it when God says, test me. You don't think that I'll do it? Test me. Try me. You know, test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessings that there will not be room enough to receive it. So let's go to that next screen. Now, what is the difference between tithes and offerings? So as we said earlier, a tithe is a specific amount, usually 10% of your income, that you give first. And an offering is anything extra that you give beyond that. So that could be, for me, I sponsor a kid, or anything that's going on at your church that you want to give to. Like Dana Joe has the, what do you call it? The shoebox, yeah, the shoebox ministry. It's things like that. So that's the difference between the tithes and the offering. Now we have the big question coming up next. Why should I tithe? So as we read some of the scriptures, the Bible tells us that tithing is a way to show that we trust God with our lives and our finances. And tithing, that is so true about showing that you trust God, because trust me, it's very hard when you are lacking and then someone says, oh, you should be tithing, or they suggest that you should be doing that. I'm like, tithing? I need more money. I can't be giving away what I, feel like I need more of. I told you I would get my paycheck and I'm like, I need 3 more. And then I'm supposed to tithe on top of that? It took me a while to get there, but I did get there. But another thing that tithing does, it's you're supporting the needs of the pastor and the work of the local church. It's one of the main reasons behind tithing. If you like coming into an air-conditioned building and sitting on soft cushioned chairs, I don't know if you realize this, they don't give it away for free. This has to be paid. These lights that are on, that's how, the church pays their bills. So I don't like it, when people go, oh, the church just wants your money. I'm like, well, where else in this world do you go, or what do you do that no one's requiring money of you? I think if you go to the grocery store and try to walk out of there without paying, that's called thievery, and they will arrest you, Nobody is standing here. First of all, nobody is standing at a church, demanding that you pay tithe, We're just showing you what the scripture says. And number 3, this is a big one. Giving encourages a grateful and a generous spirit, and it can help steer us away from greed and discontent. Learning to be content and happy with where you are, even if it's, a temporary situation that you're in. So let's go to our next one. Here is that big one. Do Christians have to tithe? And the answer to that is you're not required to tithe. The Lord is not going to take away his love, his salvation, and his caring of you because you don't give a 10th of your salary. Now, if he did, this is not a God worth serving. Because, it's like, does God need my 10%? I don't care if you are worth billions. Does God need 10% of your money? No, he doesn't. It's your heart that he's after. And, where your money is, a lot of times it's where your heart's tied to, But no, you do not have to, you're not required to tithe as a Christian. And you're not a bad person if you don't, because God loves us when we give and when we don't give. He's not sitting up there going, oh, okay, she gets extra loving this Sunday because I saw her put her tithes in. And I'm going to hold back a little bit until you bring that offering. No, that's not how God operates. Now, that's the key here. We don't have to tithe to earn God's love, because we already have it. In Matthew 23:23, Jesus warns against focusing too much on the rules of tithing without paying attention to the more important things of this world, like justice, mercy, and faithfulness. So this isn't about a rule. This is about your heart. Because I'm telling you, when you get into that mode of giving, you want to do it. That's why you can sit here and you listen to people that saying they're going on the mission field and it moves you, it touches you, you want to get involved. Whether you go and help yourself or you send somebody, When they're out there on the mission field and there's a lot coming against them, and it helps if, you got somebody who financially is helping you do that. So again, money is, it's not about this rigid, I must pay tithe. It's about your heart, So next one. So this is just a scripture. Gosh, I didn't even put the scripture name on it, where it was located at, but I will read it anyway. Then she bore again, this time his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of the sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought an offering to the offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. Abel also brought the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. And the Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. Why was one offering accepted and the other rejected? I think it all has to do all about your heart, all about your heart posturing. So anyway, that was my stepping away, from the steps to just, talk a little bit about tithing. So now we're going to get back to those steps. And we're moving into that debt snowball. And I believe that this is in your workbook also, this form. Now, Jeffrey, do they have that debt snowball on that app also? They don't have that? Okay. Okay. All righty, well, you guys can just make copies of that. But the debt snowball just is a place where you're going to list all the debts that you have, the balances on those, and like your monthly payment for those, because you just want to see what you have. One thing that happens when people start doing a budget, you're gonna look and see, because there's two things. It's like sometimes you don't realize that you have more money than you realize, and then on the other hand, you don't realize you have as much debt as you have. We think we're safe. We're like, oh, that's only $100. This is $500. Then you got your car, and that's $30,000, and you sit down and you start adding up the balances of all those. You just might be shocked at how much debt there was. I mean, I was like, I don't have that much bills. I mean, I'm not paying that much stuff, and I'm pretty good with staying up on my bills. But when I put the car down, and then that line of credit that I had, and then that student loan, and a couple of credit cards, I was like, it totaled like $44,000. And I'm like, 44 or 48, one of them, and I was like, yikes. And at that time, when you're making like $60,000, that's a lot of debt. That was more than half my income. So, this is why you put things down in writing. When you see things, there's kind of like something that goes off. There's a switch that goes off, and you're like, okay. One thing that it tells you is that, got to stop this bleeding. We got to stop it. So if a lot of that debt is from credit cards, got to stop that bleeding by putting those credit cards down. Now, I don't know, for those of you who do know Dave Ramsey, when he comes on stage, he has these giant scissors, and he has, credit cards, and he calls it plastic surgery. Cutting them up, So, this is what they do to you when you don't pay them, and then you go to the store and try to use that card. What do they tell those people to do? It's a thing. Like, take that credit card and cut it up, So I would say, if you're struggling with that, do plastic surgery on yourself and cut those things up, And our next screen is just a continuation. That's just the rest of that form, I believe. Where you're just gonna list out all of those debts. And the next screen, I think we talked about this earlier, about that relationship between paying with cash versus paying with the credit card. So this just shows, these were some studies that were done, what does it say, like in 2016, the Psychology Today published an article concerning the research studying the links between payment methods and shopper behavior, and these were the results. Paying with a credit card is less painful than paying with cash. So shoppers spend more money when they use that credit card. Credit card users not only spend more, but they also purchase more unhealthy things. Those who pay with cash enjoy a better relationship with their purchased products. And that's true, because once you've if you've paid cash and it's yours, especially if it's and you're gonna experience this, everybody's gonna experience it. You pay off a credit card that's been around, so long, it's just gonna you're just gonna feel empowered, and you're gonna enjoy those purposes. When you pay off that car, you're gonna enjoy that car. And in 2008, a paper in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, they said that researchers found that there are significant differences in spending based on how shoppers pay for things. So their main argument was the more transparent the payment outflow, the greater the aversion to spending, or higher the pain of paying. Meaning, if you see your money leaving, you're standing at that counter and you got to hand over, you're buying something that's $100, you got a $100 bill, and you hand that over, there's that little tinge that's like, ooh, yikes, I left home and I had, $200 and now I have $100, So that's a thing. It was actually studied, So this also goes on to say this leads to less transparent payment modes, such as the credit card and gift cards versus cash, being more easily spent or treated as play or monopoly money. There's that detachment. You kind of have it in the back of your head, it's not really my money. Yes, maybe somebody's money at that moment, but you're certainly going to feel it at the end of the month when the bill comes hunting for you. So go to the next picture. So this is a great picture. Now you guys are wondering, what in the heck is this? So, just want you to keep this picture in mind as we move through the debt reduction. You may develop what is called gazelle intensity. So we see a gazelle here. Now, one thing that we know is that cheetahs, I looked this up, and it said cheetahs are the fastest land animal, reaching speeds of 70 miles per hour. So when a cheetah catches you in their crosshairs, you're rarely going to get away. But there are times when an animal can escape the death of a cheetah. And in this case, this was actually a video that was online, but I couldn't get that video loaded, so I just took this snapshot, of it. This gazelle actually got away from this cheetah. And I tell you, it was, man, you should have seen that video. Like, this poor gazelle was like running for his life. He was like, he dug, and that cheetah be right on his tail, but that gazelle like wised up, and what they call it, a fake out. The cheetah went this way, the gazelle went this way, and that poor baby got away. And what this cheetah did was just isolate this poor baby, It's like all the others were up there, and this baby gazelle was just kind of lagging behind, and he went for him. But I tell you, just watching that cheetah try to escape the grasp of this, that gazelle try to escape the grasp of this cheetah, man, it was something to behold. But I want you guys to think of, we are that gazelle. Look how small that gazelle is. Look at that cheetah. That's dead. That's dead. And we're going to do exactly what this gazelle did. We are going to run for our life from death. It's like, so hang in there, throw the cheetah an uppercut, by getting those side hustles, get that second job, man, tell that cheetah, hey, take this, you get that one bill, it's paid off, and you get that statement that says, hey, balance is zero, I remember I got this gazelle intensity with that first bill that I paid off. I had gotten down to maybe like $800 or $900 on that student loan, and I couldn't wait. I was pulling that thing up online just thinking, oh my God, 2 more payments, I'm gonna be done with this thing. I could not wait. I got paid, and that check was probably on, maybe like, I don't know, $60, $100 or something like that. I wrote a whole check. I wrote that $900 and paid that off because I just wanted to pull that up and see that balance say zero. And I was hooked then. I was like, oh my God, I do not have to send a payment to this anymore. and I just look forward to the money from that second job, the payment that was on that. Now I'm going to move on to the next one. And with every one of them, I felt like David. I don't know if you guys saw that movie, series called House of David. Girl, is it? Oh my God. If you guys have not seen that, if you don't want to even sit through the whole thing, go to the end, that last episode when David takes down Goliath. That is a thing to behold because, especially with the special effects, we've got nowadays. I mean, this giant was huge and David's just this little guy, and I was telling, talking to the Lord on the way down to that meeting that we had, over the weekend. I was like, David was just awesome. I mean, this thing was huge. This giant was enormous. And David showed absolutely no fear because he had all the confidence in God that giant was going down. He didn't doubt at all. Remember, he ran toward that giant. He was not afraid. He ran toward it. And that scene is just amazing because, you see him take that stone out and hit that huge giant, and for a moment that giant just kind of stands there, and then all of a sudden you see him just kind of like things start dropping, his hands go to the side, the sword drops, and then you're sitting there going, what happened, and yeah, because that rock had cracked that skull, and he just, down. That is such an awesome scene, and this is what we're going to do with debt. This is how we need to look at debt. You're going down. I don't care what it is. Remember I told you that the lady that works with Dave Ramsey had over $400,000 in debt, her and her husband. They are debt-free. It did take them 7 years, but so what? If the Lord tarries and you be here for another 20 years, it's going to come and go. So you can choose whether you're going to attack this debt, in that time period, or just wait for someone to write you a big check. I got news for you. It ain't coming. I prayed for it. No, I hoped. I was like, who has money in this church? I'm going to sit close by them so that they might feel the Lord speak to them, turn around and give this woman $1,000. I mean, who hasn't? I cannot be the only person who thinks that way, or maybe I am. But I was like, God's just going to tell somebody, because those things happen. I mean, I don't know if it's true, but there's this story going around about how, President Trump paid off somebody's mortgage because I think he helped them, that person helped them with their, I think it's what was he riding in, limo or something, broke down, and somebody helped him. Well, somebody did something for him, and he paid that man's mortgage off. I'm like, if Trump ever comes near Florida, I'm going, I want my mortgage paid off. But all joking aside, we got to get serious about that debt, and there is victory. I just want to encourage everybody. There is victory. You can overcome it. It may be slower. Some people may pay off their debt at a rapid pace, and others it may take some time. But you've heard the story of the tortoise and the hare. The job gets done. Whether you're moving at a fast pace or you're moving at a slow pace. Just stay connected to God. That's all I say. So we are going to go to the next screen. Now, I've said all this about paying off the debt, but let's be real. There are times when you may have to pause your debt snowball to deal with an unexpected event that happens in your life or some expensive situation. An unexpected event could be a loss of a job. So if that happens, you want to pause your debt snowball because, we got to secure another job or something, It could be some medical emergency, and that's okay. It is okay to pause. You just want to make sure that you get right back to it, once you're back on track with your money and life. But it's okay to pause. I got one more screen for you. So I know that, again, don't know where everybody is, financially, and some of you may feel that you're in such a deep hole that you can't get out, but I say look up, I know again, if this room holds, different financial situations, and for some, saving that $1,000, could be extremely difficult, But give it to God. Let Him show you. I'm constantly saying, I just can't reiterate that enough. You are going to do what you feel that God is telling you to do in those situations. So just hold on, I just know that God can take those I can'ts and make them some I cans. So we got about 7 minutes. I'm just going to go ahead and jump a little bit into baby step 3 before we just stop and then, take any questions that anybody has. But just give you a little preview here. Baby step 3, what is that? Once you have completed, paying off your debt, and you can even begin this too while you're in the midst of paying off some of the debt. We are going to build a fully funded emergency fund. That $1,000 emergency fund was just something that we started, and it was gonna, keep you on track. Because let me tell you that what you can count on, the enemy not liking the decision to get your finances in control. So maybe something's probably going to happen, that car may break down or whatever. So that's what that $1,000 was for, to, like, you've got this emergency fund, take care of this, but stay on track. But once you've, paid the debt or whatever, then we need to build that emergency fund up to 3 to 6 months of expenses. And I'll tell you, too, once you get here, you may just continue it. You may take it from 3 to 6 to 6 to 9, 9 to 12, and beyond. But we are trying to prepare ourselves for any type of catastrophic event that could happen. Now, can anybody think of a catastrophic event that happened to everyone? What was it, 2020? COVID. That COVID pandemic. Man, that was a booger. No one thought that we were going to be locked up and that it was going to change our lives and our world. We thought we were just locking up for 2 weeks, and look what that turned into. So what did that bring about? Layoffs, closures of businesses, So this is why we want to have a bigger emergency fund set up for those situations, or another catastrophic event could be, the death of the wage earner. Maybe, someone is you're a stay-at-home person and your spouse dies, and that's, that can be, that's traumatic, it's like you've lost them and then you're like, okay, now what am I gonna do, So, and one thing that I just absolutely loved about Dave Ramsey and him, I've heard him take calls from people and they were calling to get advice because they said, my husband died, and yeah, he made provisions for us, So I've got like a $500,000 life insurance policy. How do I invest it? He what he told that person? He says, "What I want you to do, leave it where it is. If you've got that sitting in your savings account, leave it in your savings account. And what you need to do," because he could gauge the person on the other end, he says, "You need to finish grieving. I can tell you haven't. And you don't need to be making any situations about large sums of money when you're in that grieving process." He says, take the time to do that and then call us back. He wasn't telling her, oh, this is what you need to do. Go and invest this here. No, and that's like, and that's what I love. I loved about that ministry. I was like, man, that's good advice instead of that person, being stressed with doing that. But think of the opposite side of that. If that wage earner did pass away and there's nothing, So just trying to be proactive here by getting to the point that you have this fully funded emergency fund. So let's just read some of the bullet points here that I have. So building this fully funded emergency fund in the cornerstone of financial peace. According to the NerdWallet research, families who have such a buffer are 60% less likely to draw upon high debt during a crisis because they've got this sitting here for them. And this fund is there in case of that catastrophic event. Nobody plans for a catastrophic event, you know, they just happen. So that's what we're gonna be, that's our main thing. Once we've like paid off our debt, let's get this fund set up. So that was the introduction to baby step 3. So gonna stop right now because it's 7:58. I'm gonna do our drawing again. So everybody's got a great chance because, you know, not that many people here, so. And remember, gotta be here to win. Okay. All righty, so let's see, we got Will Melendez? Not here? And didn't I call that last time?
The first time.
Oh, okay.
One at that time.
Marie Silney? No, Kiki. No, all righty. We'll just keep drawing till we get somebody. Taylor Griffin?
Nope. Keep it rolling.
John Hardis?
Nope.
They're probably online going, I'm here. Sorry, I'm not checking the chat. Bianca Goss. Woo! Bingo. I guess we just put them back in there? Yeah.
Back in.
Okay. Yeah. And Donovan, if you would just grab that book right there. Well, congratulations. Yeah. All righty. And so at this time, just going to take questions, if anyone has any questions. Okay.
As far as budgeting, so I saw on the paper and even looked a little bit in the app, it asked about your income. I would imagine you want to put net and not worry about any 401k or, you know,
Right.
those type of things.
Right. It's that spendable money that you have month to month. What's
Okay.
the spendable money there?
And also, like, if you have, like, the military has, your paycheck can sometimes go towards your housing. So do you just say you don't have a housing cost or, you know, like, or count it? I don't know. Because it's like,
in
it
its
doesn't come in
entirety,
the net.
like,
It doesn't come in the net. So you don't, you know?
so you don't have to contribute anything to that.
Well, there's the income, but it goes straight to it. You don't get it in your check. It goes to the,
Oh, well then
landlord.
I personally wouldn't include that because it's already designated for,
okay,
you know, someplace.
got you,
So,
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
this is that hard cash that you have control over that, you know, right. Any other questions?
I just thought it might be a good thing just to point out, I mean, when you're in debt, the whole point of being out of debt is that you don't want to pay that interest that you're paying on whatever you owe, right? You don't want to pay that interest. That's, say, it could be 20% on a credit card easily.
Or more?
So just consider the fact that once you're out of debt, you take that 20% and it's in your pocket now for spending, not for giving to someone else. That is the beauty of being out of debt, is you get to spend 100% of your money on what you buy, not just 80%.
Yes. You know, when I bought the first house, I could not believe it. I don't know what I was thinking of, but you know, when you have a house financed for like the typical 30 years, I just could not believe what the house was actually going to cost at the end of 30 years. You know, it's like, this house not worth that, you know. But it's crazy, you know, the interest. But think about it, you know, it's being financed for 30 years. So, you know, you got this $100,000 home that's going to cost you almost $300,000 when it's all said and done. I'm like, I wish I had a $300,000 home at that time, you know. But, yeah, so just trying to, you know, pay that down now, you'd be surprised. What is the first, 10 years or so, you know, you're paying your mortgage and, yeah, what do they apply to the principal? You got a $1,500 note. You're lucky if you get, $100 applied to the actual, you know, balance of the home. All of that is going to, you know, the interest and stuff on that home. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons for being out of debt and staying out of debt and not use those credit cards and stuff. Yeah, you end up the biggest benefit, you got more money in your pocket. So, any other questions? Yeah, go.
It's not a question, it's a comment.
Yeah, sure.
I would highly recommend to the younger people to start investing early,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because that's really going to help you over the years, you know. And also, a suggestion for a good side hustle is pet sitting.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
I think we
that-
talked about that
My
earlier.
sister makes
Yeah.
good money doing that.
Yeah,
So I just want to suggest that to anyone.
yeah. Yeah, I think I mentioned that in one of the meetings, and I was saying how much, you know, you can make doing that, you know, yeah. Especially if you love animals, you know.
I have a comment for the young people as well. Young people, don't leave your parents' house. Take as much money from them as possible. Save, save, save. When Gigi and I, just want to give a little testimony ourselves. When Gigi and I got married in 1999, we came up with a budget to pay off our debt within 3 years. And so before we heard anything about Snowball, we started doing that. We paid off the smallest credit card and went up. And so by the end of it, we were paying $3,000 a month towards the student loan, and we paid it off by 2002 on her birthday. You know, so
Oh, that was a great present.
yes. So it really came in handy because I lost my job after that, and we didn't have all of those debt collectors calling us. So it was such a blessing and a freedom to pay that off. So Snowball, that is the way to go. You know, start off small, pay it off, and when you finish, you're free. So just wanted to
deal.
share that.
Good deal. And if you've ever had debt collectors calling you, it is not a pretty sight. You know, these people will call you all time of the night, all time of the day, on your job, you know. One called me one time, and, you know, I think I made her feel so bad afterwards, she never called me again. But I, you know, she was asking me to just do the impossible. I said, ma'am, I am at work trying to make money to pay you. I don't have any. Do you understand what that means when someone says they don't have it? I'm not saying that I don't have it and then there's like $500 tucked somewhere. No, if you check the account now, it's negative something. So I don't, you know, you can't get blood out of a turnip. I don't know what you want me to do. I said, trust me when I say I want to pay y'all as much as y'all want your money. I did get product, and I couldn't pay for it, you know. I want to pay you, but I don't know what you want me to do. Tell me what you want me to do. Oh, that poor lady was like, well, do you have, like, relatives? They're just as broke as I am, you know. And she, you have any friends? They won't be friends for long, you know. You know, and she, oh, well, I'm just so sorry. I said, I'm not trying to, like, unload on you, but I just don't know what you want me to do. I'm doing all that I know to do. I'm just saying, you're just calling and you're just stressing me out, you know. Like, I'm at my job working now. What do you want me to do? And she said, I understand, honey. It's just my job. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, you know. But it's just not a good place to be. It's, you know, I see why some people just end up getting depressed, and, you know, and doing other things. But, yeah, you just don't want to put yourself in that situation. Avoid it at all costs. Young people.
I can only laugh about the blood out of a turnip now because we were going through that debt. And there was this guy named Mr. West. I'll never forget his name. He was calling from Discover Card. This is back in the 90s. And I told him, Mr. West, you cannot get blood out of a turnip. He told me that Discover Card was not in the habit of lending money to vegetables. So it's laughable now, but at that moment, I just wanted to lay on the floor.
Yeah.
So if you don't have to incur debt, don't do it.
Yeah.
But what I really wanted to speak to, you were talking about investing. And if you have good mutual funds and you know how the market has been up and down, I mean, when we worked at JM back in 2008, I saw my account go down like $70,000. Don't take your money out. leave it there because it will grow again.
Yeah,
And that's what I have to say about that.
yeah. And,
Yeah,
and
but-
that's the hard thing to do, when you are investing. It's like, you're seeing your money just go down every month. You're getting those statements, and you are tempted. Like, I just want to take it out. But you think about, you're going to take it out and do what? First of all, you're going to get a heavy, heavy penalty for taking that money out. And then what are you going to do? Stick it under the mattress? Don't do that. If anybody's doing that, stop it. Put that money somewhere else. So, anyone else? Okay, just in the back there.
Are you gonna talk about the baby step 3 some more, or?
Yes, that was just the introduction of it. We
Okay.
just got to get out of here.
Right.
But yes, we are going to talk about that. I know we've got 2 more meetings, 3 I can cover, and probably 4 and 5 next week, because 4 and 5, not everybody's going to have that situation. Like, I think one of those steps is about saving for college, and, if you don't have college kids or college-age kids or whatever. But I still think that it's good information to share with others, maybe you've got grandkids or whatever, that you may be the person that's responsible for getting them to college and whatever. So, but it does not take as much time. So, yeah, I'm going to finish up with 3. We'll do 4 and 5, and then do 6 and 7, the last meeting. Anyone else? Okay, well, I am turning it back over to you, Pastor Allen. You are welcome.
I do have to say, since you have the cheetah, what do you call it, gazelle
Gazelle.
intensity, and it seemed like you have a determination to pay off debt.
You gonna write me a check for the mortgage?
No. I was going to say pay off my debt.
I know. I was sitting here getting palpitations. I'm like, this is the night.
Right church, wrong person. Yeah. When in 2008, oh my goodness, when the economy went south, it was rough for us. It was rough. So we took a hit. Our goal was to pay off our mortgage quickly, but that set us back, and so trying to get back on track with that. So yeah. Well, hopefully in the next 5, 6, 7 years, I can do that. I would love to do it.
Oh, yeah,
So,
that's my
yeah.
goal.
So,
So.
was that?
She was saying people that pulled out.
Yes. And that's one of the things that we did back then. We pulled our 401, and we regret it because we saw it went back up, and we missed
I
out.
did too. I made
Yeah,
a fool. I
that's-
mean, it wasn't 2008 when I did it. I just did it earlier since, because I just didn't know any better. I
Yeah.
didn't know how all of that worked. I left that job. I needed a car because the car had broken down, and I said, I'll just get my money out of 401k, and it was like a 40% hit.
It hits you hard.
I mean, just like you just threw money out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's good, good advice, this is a stepping stone, and keep building on this, and there's nothing better than financial freedom. So let's close in prayer. Father, again, thank you for the information that you have given us tonight. And Lord, help us to not just hear it, but be a doer, and that we put into practice these things, Lord. And it might be challenging for some of us, but Lord, we can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. So Lord, we pray that you would just bless each person that is here. We look forward to the testimonies of how people have got set free and how they're doing things even to impact the kingdom of God. So we bless you, we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. God bless you all.